Okay, we all complain. Let's get that out there. Okay,
Mhm.
none of us are, angels uh, all the time. And so when we see that the certain level of groaning and griping and complaining about little things or whatever begins to escalate or elevate, that can be a sign that there's some resentment going on. And instead of approaching it from, head on about what the issue is about, we start complaining about other things. We start
Mhm.
seeing little faults and cracks and little places in the relationship that we feel like that we can put our finger on and kind of uh, do that instead of being honest.
Mhm.
And why we do that, for the life of me, I don't know. But the big danger of excessive complaining is that we don't like to hear it, and so talk to the hand kind of a thing. If we don't get validation about our complaints from our spouse, we will seek it elsewhere.
Mhm.
That's the danger. When we seek validation about our dissatisfactions or our complaints or our disappointments, other places, sometimes relationships get started that are not good ones.
Well, welcome to today's episode of What to Say and How to Say It. Today, we're going to be talking about how the act of resentment can destroy your marriage. And I do believe it is an act. You may think, no, this is within me and it's hidden. Like, yeah, no, it's coming out sideways on the people around you. And if you don't get a grip on this, it will ruin your health. It will ruin your marriage and it will destroy your soul. I mean, for real, resentment is a huge problem. And we've all had it. We've all had it. Me too. And we know how to get rid of it. And we want to, because it's like a nasty cancer eating away at the possibilities for relationship. So I'm with our favorite licensed professional counselor, Kyle Hargrove, and we are going to be tackling this topic today. And so, Kyle, start us off. What do you think is key about resentment? Why does it matter?
That's a great question. And I think the reason that it matters more than anything is typically it sneaks up on us and it's there before we know it. It's a sneaky snake. And I like to visualize things sometimes. And when I think about resentment, I think about I think about the paving stones in the backyard, um, and when we had a leak in the plumbing, and we watched water coming up from under the ground, covering up the paving stones, instead of water coming down from the heavens,
Right.
coming up from it, it's seeping out.
Ooh.
It's just a little bit at a time. It's just not even noticeable at first, and then all of a sudden you start recognize it, and you go, "Where in the world is that coming from?" Not knowing we had a slab leak or a leak, that had to, it was a big deal, really. But
Yeah, it sounds ugly.
worse than resentment, I think, probably when the whole total bill came in. But that's the way it works. Resentment typically doesn't just come in and go, at us like
Mhm.
that. And I can't tell you how many times that I've had people come in and sit down and just with tears in their eyes, and say, I don't know what's wrong with me. I think I'm a monster. I I'm having these terrible, terrible thoughts, about my husband or my children.
Mhm.
I don't like them. I don't like them at all, and that could go either way. Um, and say I don't know what's wrong with me.
Mhm.
And so it's a matter of saying, all right, let's take a deep breath for a minute and let's think back and let's figure out what it is that's bringing these terrible, horrible, no good, very bad, nasty thoughts to your head about people that you love very much.
Mhm.
And usually we come to the conclusion that it's resentment. And here's the upfront and the ugly about resentment is that it happens to all of us. It's a normal thing in the process of an ongoing relationship.
Mhm.
The question is, what do we do with this that's in our hands? What do we
Yeah.
do with it? once we've realized that we're resenting the people that we love the most, how do we solve that? And that's a difficult question to answer.
I think it is a difficult question. And even, to back the train up even further, it's like, where did it come from in the first place? Because oftentimes I see people that have expectations that they don't even know they have, but that's like a seed that morphs into resentment when people that don't even know that there was an expectation about them, they were supposed to have this performance standard and they didn't live up to it, and now their spouse is mad, like, why are you mad? It's like, I'm let down. Well, why are you let down? Well, I had this expectation. And and so we don't even know half the time. We just wake up and we're angry like 3 months later or something.
Well, let's start right there, okay? Because I think as often as not, the seed of resentment comes from an unrealistic expectation.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Or it comes from a lack of accurate expectations. Mm-hmm. So let's look at that parent-child relationship first. That's where the majority of these have come from in my experience anyway, when parents come in and say, my kids are driving me crazy. I don't even like them. I don't want to feel this way for the rest of my life or the rest of their lives. I don't, for anybody's life. I don't want to feel this way at all, not even tomorrow. Why am I this way? I'm a horrible person. I'm a horrible parent. I'm a monster. And the reality is the expectation that we had for parenthood is not proving to be congruent with reality. Mm-hmm. Raising children is very inconvenient.
It is messy and ugly and treacherous work. Yes.
And there, I think we all had this place, and most of us, or many of us, could probably go back and tell you the minute that we realized it, that I just grounded my child, and I also grounded myself.
Yes, I'm trapped.
I'm
I
trapped.
Can't leave. Yeah. Oh
no. Yeah, I restricted my child from a particular thing, and I just now realized what I did to me. Uh-huh. Well, but I'm not mad at me.
Right.
I'm mad at them.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. and so much of this is we don't accept them for who they are, which is the children, right? And so they're going to be messy. And we have this thing in our head that you're going to be, Beethoven on the piano. So why aren't you practicing? The expectations, unrealistic. Like there's one, the odds of being superstar on the football team, real small, yeah. Right? And all those kinds of things. I deal with a lot of people who's, in Christendom, people go to conferences all the time. And, it's really, really common for the wife to go off and the husband to think she's going to come back and be, I don't know, some like perfect Christian woman. The same thing with the wife. Husband goes off and he's going to come back and be, I don't know, James Dobson or something. I have no idea. But there's, and we don't even know that there's that expectation on them. And when they go and they come back, and guess what? They're still the same person they were when they left 3 days ago, right? We're seeing what's wrong, and then we're disappointed, as if there's something there that would, and we haven't even communicated, which by the way is probably good in that situation. But a lot of times these expectations that we have are based on things we're not even talking about in our relationships, and they're just these invisible demons just floating around messing everything up. Yeah. Not useful.
Well, let's think about one of the things that we speak of relatively frequently, and that's this idea of setting parameters or boundaries. Mm-hmm. Okay, 2 rules that get thrown out when we talk about parameters or boundaries with clients all the time. 2 rules right up top. Number 1, the people with whom you set parameters or boundaries are not going to appreciate your work.
Yeah.
Number 2, you're probably going to have to tell them more than once. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you have a husband-wife scenario where maybe something is expressed that's not going well, and, I'd like to ask this of you. I'd like to see if maybe the next time this happens, we cannot go this direction, but maybe kind of point more in that direction. Mm-hmm. Okay. Certainly. Well, don't forget number 2. Okay. Yeah. Because the next time something happens, we just kind of go with the status quo. We go the way that we've gone before, and maybe we don't remember that we had this conversation, and we don't respect the boundary of the other spouse.
Well, we don't even know we're being disrespectful, right? Like,
Right.
Can you please put your coffee cup in the dishwasher instead of leaving it on the counter?
Exactly.
I feel resentful when I have to put your stuff away. Well,
Yeah.
you're deciding
and
to put.
I did nothing as far as I'm concerned, and I'm the spawn of Satan as far as she's concerned. Okay. Because she's feeling nothing but resentment.
Right.
Okay. So maybe she puts it aside this time. Maybe she remembers this time. Oh, yeah, I remember. Sometimes we have to remind. Okay. Sometimes we have to say it twice. Okay. Sometimes we have to say it 3 times.
Oh, man, I'm thinking like 30, and, as many 70 times 7 even to forgive. Like, and the key thing here is act in this way, where it's the first time. Can you be kind? Hey, baby, do you mind putting your coffee cup away? And guess what? If that's not working, stop doing it. Stop putting the coffee cup away for them. Stop doing these things, because you're basically, and this is going to sound terrible, but if you're getting taken advantage of in your home, then it doesn't matter whether you're the dude mowing the lawn and, the kids are supposed to pick up the dog poo and they're not, and you're just mowing over it and you're complaining the whole time. Or if you're the wife putting the coffee cups in the dishwasher and your teenagers and your husband are leaving them out, stop doing what you're doing, because that's not working.
That's right.
And then maybe there's a big event that needs to happen. Like maybe somebody doesn't make dinner. Well, where's dinner? Well, I've been picking up coffee cups or I've been scooping dog poop off of my shoes.
Didn't have time.
I don't feel like it. I just kind of lost my entire anything to work with food after the day that I've had. And maybe tomorrow, if some of these other chores get taken care of, I might feel like it again. But I mean, that sounds terrible. But if we don't do something different, if we don't show up differently, then everybody else is going to keep doing what they're doing. We're teaching them that that's what they should do because it works. Hello.
Boy, is that a moment, for so many people, because when I tell them they're only doing this because you've taught them to,
mm-hmm.
And they go, what? Me? What? Mm-hmm. Did you just say what I think you just said? Yes, we've taught them to by our behaviors.
Yeah.
Not such a direct concerted effort to teach them. We'd like them to know the other way around, but we've taught them that it's okay because we put up with it. We've sacrificed ourselves. We've not said anything. We've, just carried this burden for so long and thinking that we're being a saint.
No, we're not being wise.
No, not at all.
We're enabling bad behavior in a relationship, which is damaging to families. Yeah. One of the principles that we operate off of is that you have zero tolerance for emotional negative communication in a conversation. What I mean by that is, grieve loudly. I mean, do whatever you need to do. But if you're aiming that at somebody, you're this and you're that, and you never, and you always, like that has no place there. And so don't tolerate it within yourself. Has zero tolerance for that for you. But if your teenager, spouse, whatever is doing that, one sentence and it's, hey, I love you. Can we dial it down a bit? And I want to hear this. Can you talk about your experience versus labeling me with things? I want to know what you feel, but use I language here, and if the person's not willing to do that, boom, I'm gone. And I teach people do this because if you enable that behavior, you just get more of it, right?
Exactly.
It's not long suffering.
No,
it's not.
It shouldn't be. It can be. And you did it to yourself.
Exactly. That is it right there. And we get resentful because we're betraying ourselves and we don't know what to do to stop. But the first thing is stop doing what you're doing now because you're enabling. Resentment
is do nothing at all for a minute.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you use, the always and the nevers and the absolutes.
Yep.
Because I have a few signs, a few things that we can identify resentment when we see these things.
Okay, bring it on.
Okay, so the first one is using absolutes. Always, never, always, never, totally, clearly, things like that. And they always focus on the negative, not the positive.
Mm-hmm.
So if you recognize either yourself or your spouse continually using absolutes, things that aren't true, basically, absolutes are lies.
Well, nobody always never does anything. Like we're
Exactly.
all pretty, even when those of us that are actually pretty consistent are not always or never something.
Every time.
Impossible. Exactly. Yeah. Not happening.
But but so that's a way of complaining. And when we hear the absolutes coming, that should be a little ding, a little bell ringing in our head that something's off,
Mhm.
especially if it's an uncharacteristic behavior of one person or the other. If they don't typically do that, but now you see that they are and they're aiming it at you, okay, there's a sign in there. So the second one is the excessive complaining. Okay, we all complain. Let's get that out there. Okay, none of us are angels all the time. and so when we see that the certain level of groaning and griping and complaining about little things or whatever begins to escalate or elevate, that can be a sign that there's some resentment going on. And instead of approaching it from head on about what the issue is about, we start complaining about other things. We start seeing little faults and cracks and little places in the relationship that we feel like that we can put our finger on and kind of do that instead of being honest.
Mm-hmm.
And why we do that, for the life of me, I don't know. But the big danger of excessive complaining is that we don't like to hear it, and so talk to the hand kind of a thing. If we don't get validation about our complaints from our spouse, we will seek it elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's the danger. When we seek validation about our dissatisfactions, or our complaints, or our disappointments, other places, sometimes relationships get started that are not good ones for us.
Yeah, that's a good point. So give some advice to the people that are living with a spouse that is a chronic complainer. We marry our opposites, right? So you've got somebody in the relationships, very positive, upbeat, happy-go-lucky, whatever, sees the silver lining all the time. And they're married to, Debbie or Donnie Downer. Is something wrong with everything all the time?
I like to flip the tables a little bit, maybe what would be expected there. Instead of taking the pounding of the complaints, they complain, they come at us and they beat us up. And so it's easy to say, all right, I'm going to hurt people, so I'm going to turn around and I'm going to beat you back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I may use your words. I may use the past. I may use the Bible. There are 100 things I might use to beat you with that were never intended to be weapons.
Right.
So a way of avoiding that is to flip the script. And whether you actually feel that way or not, see what happens when you go to that person and say, I obviously am missing the mark somewhere. You're upset with me. And I see this in the complaints. Mm-hmm. I hear this in the absolutes. I feel like there's something that's significant. And I'd like to ask you what it is and how I can help us get past this. Mm-hmm. The first thing I'm going to do if my natural man comes through is I'm going to defend myself and hit back.
Right.
Okay. So to come back with that, you may be right. There obviously is something in your mind and in your heart that's very valid that you're upset about. Mm-hmm. I need to hear about it. And I need to know what I can do to help this situation get better.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to necessarily say, how can I help you? What do you need yet?
Right.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the situation generically. Mm-hmm. What can I do to help the situation get better? I need some information at this point. And that's really what I'm doing is I'm digging for that information. I do want to do my part, but I want to know what's going on before I make commitments.
So that is really solid advice when somebody is complaining to us about us, right? And that is exactly what we should be doing. Wow, that sounds frustrating for you. I'm interested in learning more about that. What's going on here? How can, tell me more about what it is that I'm doing that's having such a negative impact. Those things, absolutely. And so you got that element. And then on top of that, you also have the element of not only is this person complaining about you, but you can't get in a car and drive to the end of the block without hearing how terrible the neighbors are and their dog is stupid and, the weather's bad. And, so I'm talking at like the whole level of negativity that just comes out of this person consistently. I've seen that show. The reason I'm bringing it up is because I've seen that show up in people that are really, really positive. They start getting resentful of spending time with Mr. or Mrs. Negative. And it can be exhausting to deal with. And so I know what I tell them to do. I want to know what you tell them to do. What do you suggest in that space?
Well, the negativity is such an energy suck. Anytime that I'm sensing or presuming that there's negativity going on, you just literally have to get to the bottom of it. You've got to kind of tackle that part of it head on, not necessarily head on. Because like I said a while ago, I'm not necessarily going to say, what do you need from me? Mm-hmm. I want to find out information before I commit to meeting a need that may not be beneficial for us together. Mm-hmm. If what someone needs from me goes against what my vows or something along those lines, and it's not like that hasn't happened because it has. But if what someone needs from me can be ferreted out of just asking them to be upfront and honest, but I want to be a part of this. This is something we need to do together. We've got to put that together. We can't expect one person to fix it for the other or the other way around. It has to be a combined effort. Most of all, it has to be honest. Because what we're talking about here is we're uncovering layers of hurt because we haven't been honest, because we didn't feel or see a problem at the beginning. One of us covered for it, decided it wasn't that big of a deal. Once again, we trained that person that what they're doing is okay.
Yeah, and I like that approach because you're looking at it from a proactive standpoint versus a reactive standpoint. And then on top of that, you're also not saying I'm responsible for solving your problem. So we still have boundaries in there. The resentment then comes when we cross our own boundaries or when we think we're supposed to solve somebody else's problem. We get in their yard and start messing with it. That ties into the expectations we then think we have the right to have of their behavior being perfect and blah, blah, blah. That's lots of stuff in there. Yeah. So go ahead.
I was just saying, the biggest one, I think, current day problem, sign that resentment is present is passive aggressive behavior.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people talk about that a lot and don't necessarily understand what it really is, what it means, or what it looks like. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the issue du jour. It's the issue of the day. It's like, they're just passive aggressive. Well, tell me what that means. And I don't, they're passive and they're aggressive. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Captain Obvious. Okay. It wouldn't be called that if it wasn't all wrapped up in that. But passive aggressiveness is about, it's an indirect way of acting out our feelings. Mm-hmm. It's a subversive, I can't think of the word I'm looking for right now, but it comes out the opposite typically of the way it appears on the surface. Give you an example. I was counseling a gentleman one Monday afternoon. He was in a kerfluffle. And the day before, he and his wife had gotten home from church. Well, at church during Sunday school, several of the guys had said, "Hey, there's no, our team has a bye today. They're not playing. Anybody want to go out after lunch and play golf?" And so 4 or 5 of them were going, and he wanted to. So when they got home, he brought it to his wife and said, "I don't know of anything going on. Let me know if there is. But some of the guys were going to go play golf this afternoon, and I'd kind of like to join them. Is that okay?"
I can see it coming.
Sure. No problem. Go ahead. Enjoy your
That's what makes you happy.
Yeah. Well, I figured you usually nap for a couple of hours and, we'll probably be gone 3 or 4 hours. Oh, no problem. And the guy, so he said, "All right, I went." Mm-hmm. And he said, "I've been paying for it every minute since. Ever since I got home." It was, well, we could have done this, and if you hadn't, and you're selfish, and this and that and the other. But wait, you said it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
You said you didn't mind. I respected you enough to ask you first.
Yeah.
And you said, okay. As an adult, I feel like I should be able to take your word for what you say.
Yeah.
But when you say one thing now, and then I have to pay for it later, something's wrong.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And yeah, I had somebody do something similar to me, and then try to make you pay for it. And I said, stop. You lost your right to complain about this when you lied to me.
Yes.
So if you'd have told me up front this was a problem, then okay, this would be with something different would have happened. But you have lost your right to be angry at me when you lied.
And boy, once somebody's behavior change, when you start standing up like that and saying, you're an adult fully grown.
Yep. I do not play games.
I should be able to count on it. If you are not telling the truth, that's on you, not me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't play those. And I'm pretty blunt about it too. But it's manipulative. It's passive aggressive. That is not healthy behavior. That's what like third graders and junior high girls cliques do.
Right.
No, not in marriage, not in family. Let's grow up in that space.
There you go. All three of those things, the using absolutes, the excessive complaining, and the passive aggressive behaviors, those are symptoms that something's wrong. Okay. Mm-hmm. It may be a simmering resentment. And it's certainly worthy of the sit down, the awkward, uncomfortable sit down that's required of us when we're in a relationship and something's not right. If we can't be intentional about that, then we can expect a whole lot more of those negative scenarios showing themselves on a regular basis.
You're absolutely right. And I had a client that was struggling with resentment, and I asked him, what is going on with this? You're giving this person permission to do that. You're agreeing with this. You're saying yes when you mean to say no. And so now you're resentful. Who's responsible for that? And he said, well, they should know. And I said, well, they don't, clearly, right? Okay, for starters, there's that. And who's responsible for taking care of you in this space? Well, I guess I am. Okay, so why don't you show up differently? Say what you actually mean. Tell the truth. Yes. And he said, well, I can't do that because then they'll be angry. Yes, they will. Absolutely be angry. They will. They will be angry. They won't like it. Then what? What are you going to do then? Well, they're just going to take it out on me. Well, you don't have to receive that. Just because somebody is acting like a 5-year-old, that's within them. If you want to pick that up and own it emotionally, that's your choice you're making. But that's indicative of an opportunity for you to get some solid identity going, because you're letting somebody else's behavior impact yours. And that's not what adults do. So,
and boy, those are the groundswells of a pleaser being created as well.
You think? Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to say I'm fully recovered. I'm probably 90 on a really good day with sleep. I'm probably 90, 95, but
coffee.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Coffee, man. Yeah. So, but that's a thing with women, especially because we're more agreeable. If you look at the Big 5 personality index, largest, most reliable and valid personality indicator. And overall, there's men and women are pretty similar, but where we're different, women are about 12 points more, on average, 12 points more agreeable than men are. Now, that's not bad for either.
I disagree with that.
How come I'm not surprised? So, and as far as women go, I'm actually a little bit less agreeable than the average woman. But I can be more agreeable. It's contextual also, but women know to do this because we're raising infants. And so we're going to interact with infants and protect them and keep them safe, lower stress, all that kind of stuff. It's a nurturing kind of thing. Okay. But when you come into, well, who's going to have resentment? Well, it's going to be the person who chooses to be agreeable or, people please, hello, ouch. Because you're giving away your identity to make somebody else happy. You're not even considering yourself in that half the time. And so when we get into that business, it's really risky. Resentment a lot of times is not caused because people take advantage of us. It's because we've created circumstances and taught them to.
Mm-hmm.
Ouch.
Bingo. Now I feel like I've got to go do that index to find out if I'm more agreeable than the average woman.
Well, I don't think they measured that way, Kyle. I think you're stuck with your own gender, but that's a whole other can of worms these days. So
I suppose
anyway,
it is.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun. Is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with today on resentment?
Man, to get rid of the fear. It's easy to say, get rid of the fear, stop it. The fear of being honest is rampant.
Mm-hmm.
And with the person we should be able to be honest with and would hope to be able to be honest with the most, there's a lot of dishonesty that's flying through the airways when it comes to having to sit down and face and focus on something that is real, something that may include imperfections of my own.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to disappoint. We don't want to let down. But neither do we want to carry it with us when we feel that way.
Right.
Because that's when we're being dishonest by not speaking out.
Yep. Got to tell the truth. Gently, kindly, but got to tell the truth. Absolutely.
What to say and how to say it.
Oh, amen. Amen. I guess that's why we're here. So if you enjoyed today, go ahead and pop over to the next episode and dealing with conflict. I'm sure there's something in there that you'll find beneficial. In the meantime, choose to tell the truth and you'll prevent resentment in your own life.